The first swing of my hammer echoed through the quiet street just as the old porch gave way beneath my boots, and for one terrifying heartbeat I thought I was about to crash straight through the rotten wood. Standing a few feet away was a woman who looked as though life had already taken everything from her, yet she still apologized for asking anyone for help. I had walked across the road expecting to spend an afternoon replacing a few broken boards. I never imagined I was walking toward the greatest blessing of my life. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances can still change lives, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps more heartfelt stories reach people who may need them today. My name is Nathan, and I had lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Asheville, North Carolina, for nearly 12 years. My wife had passed away 5 years earlier after a long illness, leaving behind a silence that seemed to settle into every room of my small house. I learned to keep busy because staying still meant remembering too much. My weekends were spent repairing fences, mowing lawns, or helping neighbors with projects they couldn't finish themselves. It gave my hands something to do while my heart slowly forgot what it felt like to belong to someone. The old White House across the street had remained empty for months until one autumn morning a moving truck arrived. The woman who stepped out was named Grace. She was a widow with silver blonde hair tied into a loose knot and kind eyes that carried the unmistakable weight of grief. She smiled politely at everyone but rarely stayed outside long enough for conversations. A faded photograph of her late husband rested on the living room windowsill, visible from the street whenever the curtains were open. Somehow, even without speaking much, everyone understood she was carrying memories too heavy for words. A week after she moved in, I noticed her standing on the porch, staring at a loose railing that leaned dangerously toward the yard. The wood had begun to rot, and every step looked unsafe. I walked over with my toolbox and simply asked if she would mind an extra pair of hands. Relief washed across her face so quietly that it almost broke my heart. She insisted she would pay me, but I gently refused. Some things, I told her, were worth doing simply because someone needed help. What I expected to be a single afternoon turned into several weekends. Every board we replaced uncovered another hidden problem. The support beams had water damage. The steps had shifted beneath the foundation. The old paint concealed years of neglect. As we worked, we rarely spoke about painful things. Instead, we shared stories about favorite recipes, family traditions, Christmas memories, and the little habits our spouses once had that still made us smile. Those conversations slowly repaired something inside both of us that no carpenter's tools ever could. As the weeks passed, neighbors began stopping by with lemonade, homemade pies, and words of encouragement. The porch project became something larger than lumber and nails. It reminded everyone that people heal better together than alone. Grace started planting flowers beneath the windows. I found myself looking forward to Saturdays again instead of dreading another lonely weekend. Without either of us noticing, hope quietly returned to our street. Then winter arrived earlier than expected. One icy evening I slipped while carrying groceries into my garage and injured my shoulder badly enough that lifting even a kettle became painful. Pride convinced me I could manage alone, but the next morning there was a gentle knock at my door. Grace stood outside holding homemade soup, fresh bread, and a notebook filled with instructions from her former career as a physical therapist. For weeks she helped with errands, cooked meals, and reminded me that accepting kindness was sometimes harder than offering it. The woman I thought I had rescued had quietly become the one rescuing me. Spring arrived with warm sunshine and blooming dogwoods. The repaired porch had become the favorite gathering place in the neighborhood. Children laughed safely across its sturdy boards while families shared dinners beneath strings of soft lights we had installed together. Looking around one evening, I realized the porch wasn't the only thing rebuilt. 2 lonely lives had slowly become one shared future, not through grand declarations or dramatic moments, but through countless ordinary acts of generosity that stitched broken hearts back together. One Saturday morning, I brought Grace a small wooden swing I had built from leftover porch boards. It wasn't expensive or perfect, but every piece carried the story of where we had begun. As we hung it together, she rested her hand gently over mine, and without speaking, both of us understood that love sometimes arrives so quietly you only recognize it after it has already settled into your heart. I had crossed the street believing I was fixing someone else's home. Instead, God had been rebuilding mine all along. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us about a simple act of kindness that changed your life or restored your faith in people. Your story might become the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. Years later, neighbors would still smile whenever they passed that little porch, not because of its fresh paint or solid railing, but because they remembered what it represented. It proved that healing rarely begins with extraordinary miracles. More often, it starts with one person noticing another person's quiet struggle and deciding to help without expecting anything in return. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking the video, sharing it with someone you care about, subscribing for more uplifting stories, and telling us how this journey made you feel. Sometimes the smallest gesture can become the beginning of a completely new life, and sometimes the heart you set out to help becomes the one that gently, faithfully, and forever steals your own.